Jet jam from Pro Boat. Look at this thing. It's so you can jam other jets or something like that. I don't know. You don't have to use this catchment tool, but we're gonna use it for our video. And I have the tool to take it off. I wish it was toolless, but it's not. You can use this as a recovery boat, which we will need eventually at some point. Not that I crash stuff in the water ever.
No, you've never done that.
So, tip of the day, okay? All right, so here goes nothing. It's supposed to self-right, so here we go. Yes! Self-right. Watch this. Watch this. Nope. Oh, yeah! Look at that. You press that little button. Boop, boop. There it is, guys. So, if you want to self-right, by the way, you have to get up on step before that thing is going to work properly because that thing baskets the water. Ooh, that's pretty nice, actually.
Yeah.
Because that's going to actually push another boat.
It would.
So as you can see, we've got kind of a big pond and the little boat. This is actually technically supposed to be used in pools and not necessarily in ponds or lakes or oceans. So we're in the Brian Phillips RC Ocean here. And as you can see, the thing works pretty good. I want to give you guys some reverse action before we take that thing off. That's going reverse. It like feels like maybe not doing much of anything. Yeah. It's more of like a rock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up by the ladder here. You guys see that's so cool. Oh, I love watching that water shoot out the back. So now anytime you have a jet, okay, a jet boat, you're going to have an impeller that's inside of here and then a thrust tube. So remember, when you get stuff stuck in there, I think you have to undo this to drop that out of the way if you have to get stuff out, rocks and junk like that. The other thing is this can technically be installed upside down, okay, I believe.
Your little
This is the battery. We used a special adapter to charge ours, but ours is a ready to run. So you can get it as a ready to run. It comes with everything you need, up to and including this tool. So this is the trick of the day, guys. I'm gonna take this tool, we're gonna pop this off. I'm just gonna loosen it most of the way, and then I'm gonna take it off the last little teeny bit. And like I said, I wish that was just a slide on, but then it might slide off really easy. So I'm just gonna take that. It looks like a giant like monster bite. Okay, so now out you go. Yes, I got it upright for once. Whoa, yeah. All right, cam crew, let's get down here and get some awesome content. That thing is just super speedy. You know, it's kind of funny because we have, oh, by the way, I wanted to show you this, guys. There are all sorts of adjustments. Dual rates here are what you want. So that's steering dual rates and steering trim. So if it's tracking off, you just adjust this little knob here. But if you want to be able to steer more, you can turn this, and I'll show you what happens. So under throttle, I'm going to turn the wheel all the way to one side. Now watch this. See this? I'm going to turn the rates up. You'll notice it's not turning that much sharper, but it is, okay? So once it stops turning, stop turning the dual rates, because what's going to happen is it's going to run into itself. And we'll discuss that in the unbox build radio setup. And yes, there is an unbox build radio setup on this little boat. I want to go under the dock. Can I go under the dock?
Probably.
Or is that a bad idea?
You don't get stuck under there.
Look at it. It's kind of dipping the tip. I want to get up on step first. There we go. And then the other thing too is the trim. So if you guys don't know how to trim, all you do is you reach up here and you just kind of turn that trim instead of the steering wheel until it appears to be going straight. Oh yeah, over the wake. Awesome. That thing is doing really good. It's kind of a quiet boat. Obviously on a big body of water, it's going to seem a little bit less intense than some of the other boats we've done recently. But you know what? I love boats like this. They're super fun. They don't take all the attention. So if you got people swimming, they're not going to be like scared for their lives.
Right.
That was so cool. I went under the dock. It's amazing. So guys, here on Brian Phillips RC, we just built this pond so that we could show you more float planes. And we have done so many of them, like one.
Yes.
Technically, we've only done one. That's pretty lame. We need to do more.
Well, we did the Sea Wind.
Oh, that's right.
Already kind of had.
It's kind of like a full body. It's like not technically floats, but it is an amphibious plane.
An accidental float plane.
Oh yes, we did that too. And then we had the Carbon Z Cub, which is one of my favorites, by the way. And what we've got is we've got so much stuff up our sleeve, but the problem is we're in the midst of a construction project. And so it's kind of limiting access to all of our backup supplies, meaning the hundreds of airplanes that we want to be flying right now off of this very waterway. By the way, if you're brand new to the channel, it's about, right now, I'm gonna go to the middle. It's about 16 feet deep right there, right there. Now it's about 14, 13 feet, 12 feet deep, something like that. And then right here, I'm gonna show you right here, it is about 1 foot deep. And then it goes back down. There's 240,000 pounds of rock right under me. It's called a silt dam for a silt pond. And so that front part of the pond has actually got a submerged dam, and that helps to keep the silt from filling up this whole pond, because they told me when we built it that if we had to silt a pond this size, it would cost like $1 million. He wasn't exaggerating.
So it's slight exaggeration.
No, he wasn't. He said it'd be like $1.5 million, because it would take like years. They would like basically have to rebuild it. It'd be an environmental disaster.
It would be a huge pain in the butt.
Man, look at those awesome little...
This would be really great in a pool.
It would be.
It's not overwhelmingly fast.
Do you want to see it in a pool?
No.
Guys.
No, not our pool.
Our pool's not that disgusting.
Have you looked at it today? It's got a million leaves in it too.
There's leaves?
Yeah.
That makes it even more fun. Which, by the way, you guys notice the leaves on this pond? That's right. We've hired some of the best gravity supporting leaf. No, we don't. We don't do any of that. Just the wind pushes them. It's awesome. So there it is, guys. I mean, it's a pro boat, and I gotta say, we've done some amazing pro boat products. This thing is no exception, but I gotta say, the bigger, the more expensive, the more incredible it's gonna be. So I don't know what you're expecting. This thing doesn't cost $4,000.
No.
But you know what it does? It goes that direction and it says, hey, come back over here, plane, instead of having to get into the boat of shame.
Right. Oh.
And there's our beeper. So what I'm gonna do is I will bring this back very slowly. Look at it dipping the tip. Yes, okay. So we did a couple of mods on this boat. We try not to do that with unbox, but we will show you all the mods we did. This is how easy it is to open. First, I'm gonna shake it. This thing just twists like that, and then it just pulls right up. Very simple. We added some of this stuff so that we would have buoyancy, or a little bit of buoyancy. And then we added a little bit of that stuff to there, which is super nice. It works really good, because then if this pops off, you're not gonna lose your whole boat. And I gotta say, for being a brushed motor, it's doing pretty dang good. And yes, we did add a voltage alarm showing our voltage at 3.67 and 3.67, which is pretty dang good. So that's not too bad. There is a power switch here so you can turn it off, okay? Now that it's off, I don't have to worry about getting, you know, anything I stuck up that hole trapped in the impeller, okay? So this boat is super fun. It's gonna be easy for your kids to drive. It's not gonna be a frustrating experience. You get to put on one of 3 sets of decals. And just keep in mind, guys, when you buy something like this for your kids for Christmas or for a birthday or something like that, they're gonna just love it. It's gonna be super fun because it'll be theirs, okay? And if it's yours and your first boat, then you're gonna enjoy it too. And it's got a little bit of a bumper right here, so it does pretty good. It's not gonna cut the sides of your, you know, stand-up pools.
Soft-sided pool.
Yeah, so if you have a soft-sided pool, you're not gonna damage anything. It's not gonna be going like 100 miles an hour and like poke somebody in the ear hole.
No.
I don't think it's gonna poke somebody in the ear hole. I just had to check now that I said that. So at the end of the day, the jet boats leave nothing to be desired in the safety area. You don't have to worry about getting a prop stuck in there. And you're a little bit better off if you do have leaves and debris on the edge of your pond or lake or whatever it is you're driving in. So what's not to like about jet boats? The only thing I don't like about this is that it's not the one we just did the other day, which was awesome. But I think it costs 7 times as much.
And you can't run that in your pool.
Well,
unless you're like at the Olympics.
If you have a huge pool, you could. So anyway, guys, if you haven't already seen that, you want to stay tuned. We've been doing a few boats at the end of the season, admittedly, but some of you guys live in areas where it like doesn't snow. Yeah, and it doesn't get cold. So not that we're jealous or anything. But the truth is, we do like Four Seasons, and you don't have those.
Yeah.
So you come visit if you want. But we can't use our boats on the ice. So we're trying to get them knocked out before it gets cold. And just keep in mind, if you guys are watching this in 2025 and it's like spring or whatever, it's a super fun option. I think you're going to enjoy it. It's not everything to everybody. Remember, the stuff we review on this channel is always within a price range. I mean, yeah, you could spend like 10 grand and get a better boat, you know, because it's like 10 grand. Well, no, you can't get a real boat for 10 grand. Not right now. That canoe over there costs 10 grand.
We don't need a boat.
I'm just kidding. It wasn't 10 grand. That was just a joke, guys. But boats are really expensive right now if you guys have been looking at boats. So there it is, guys. The Jet Jam from Boat. Super fun. One of Horizon's products. And then everything in here is outfit nicely. Good fit and finish. I don't think you're going to leave anything on the table with this boat. It's definitely fun. Pick up an extra battery so that you can swap them out quick. I do have a second battery in my pocket, so I can show you. I just don't want to lose the tool that I have in there too. One thing we don't like about this particular battery is that end is kind of a pain. So if you get this battery and you follow my channel and you know how to solder, get yourself a couple of XT60s, get a 10 pack or something like that and swap those suckers out. It's going to be a lot easier. Or EC3s, so you can put them straight in your charger. Now, I built adapters so that I can show it stock, but just to be clear, the charger that comes with this will take like 400 years to charge your battery. And that's because it's a lithium ion and they do take a long time to charge. But if you can get it up to about 1.5 amps, then you'll be golden, okay? But you're charging at a very slow charge rate with the provided charger. Now it will charge, so if you got an overnight stay at the hotel before you go down to the hotel swimming pool or whatever on a vacation, it would work, okay? But just remember, you're gonna wanna have 2 batteries if you're doing that, okay? You have to provide USB so that you can get the thing plugged into charge, correct?
Yes, correct.
So it doesn't just go into the outlet. We'll show all that and much more in our unbox build radio setup, which is coming right after this. So if you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, look no further than the links in the video description below. And if you don't like this boat, if it's not fast enough, if it's not cheap enough, if it's not blue enough, green enough, whatever it is that you want to see different, check out bprc.me, or you can go to brianphillipsrc.com. Same place, just short links versus long. And you can see all of these products sorted by type or by brand, affiliate, hobby shop, whatever it was, distributor we worked with, and that will help you to find exactly what you're looking like. Because with over 2,000 videos right now that you can watch without waiting, you're gonna need some help finding them, okay? We do.
Yeah.
And we filmed them.
Yeah.
So some of them are more embarrassing than others. So at the end of the day, if you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, the best thing you can do is watch the footage, smash the like button, click the bell for notifications when you do subscribe, because we put out content all the time. And if you want to see the latest and greatest in technology, like this boat that just got released, I'm just kidding, guys, it didn't. But we do a lot of new releases for Horizon and lots of other competitive brands. And that's one of the best parts of watching Brian Phillips RC, because we do all the competitive brands. We're going to show you that too, because we're not here to show you the fastest, bestest, cheapest. That's up to you to decide. And we don't insult your intelligence in that way. Okay? So this thing is what it is, and you get to decide if it's the fastest, bestest, cheapest. And we're going to help support your theory one way or the other, so that you don't have to spend your hard-earned RC budget and clout with your wife in order to buy the wrong product. We're going to help get you where you want to be, which is generally out of the chair and into the air. But in this case, you fell into the water. And so, I mean, things happen. Don't blame Brian. So stay tuned. So much more right around the corner. Oh, other ways to support us. You can do Patreon. That would be a monthly support. YouTube Super Thanks. That's once. YouTube members, be a supporter on a monthly basis, just like Patreon, except on YouTube. Super easy, super convenient. Or PayPal if you wish. But I'm going to tell you what, I wish you'd just take all that money you were going to send our way and just go buy an amazing product that we have helped to review by following the links. And then you win, we win, and then the company that happened to work with us on a given product will also win. And we perpetuate this wonderful hobby habit. Sorry, whatever it is to you, will help support it, because we do love RC. It's really fun, whether it's a ground vehicle, a car, a truck, a boat, a quad, a VTOL, a leaf blower. Ah, dang it, slipped. An e-bike, an e-scooter. I had to throw those in there. Or an airplane. I mean, we do those sometimes too. You'll find it first on Brian Phillips RC. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Unbox next. We got a box. We're gonna open it right now. I don't know what this is, but you already do. We're gonna see if it's any good. All right, so we got some green bags, some green airbags. What? It's a jet jam. Look at that. From Poboat. And a battery. Looks like this thing, is this, what kind of a battery is this? 1500 milliamp 2S, 7.4 volts, 1C charge rate. It looks like 4.2, oh, lithium ion, there we go. Okay, so what do we have here? Jet Jam 12-inch self-riding pool racer. Okay, so we're gonna see if this thing self-rights. The last self-riding boat we got didn't self-right. I'm kind of hoping this one does. And it looks like this one is in the orange colors. Now, of course, this thing is designed for a pool or a smaller body of water. And so we're gonna put it in our body of water that we do have. All right, here it is, guys. Okay, comes upside down. Pretty standard looking packaging. We've got transmitter, auxiliary 3 push button, on off toggle switch, steering normal or reverse, throttle normal or reverse, min max on the dual rates, trims, dual rates and trims for throttle and steering. So it looks pretty straightforward. Soft tire and forward and reverse. And then a push button here. I don't know, that must be aux 3 one way, aux 3 the other. And there is a protective film on each of these things. It does have a bottom loader, so it looks like the batteries will go in there. And they do come with this, which is nice. Now there is also a battery in here, which is nice. So we're gonna get this plugged in right now and get these charging just as soon as we find the charger. Now here is the charger. Okay, so this says USB lithium ion charger. And this says DC input 5 volts at 1 amp, output 7.4 at 500 milliamp hours. So let's get this set up to charge right now, and then we'll show you an alternative charging technique. Okay, so we just got this thing from Ruco. It's a 65 watt plug-in. It's got USB-A outputs, USB-C, 2 of those. So this should give us a little bit more power. And the power output here is still going to be regulated by how big this charger is. Okay, so there's a red light that came on. We're just going to peel this out of the tie. And then this goes onto the Hextronic style balance lead. So if you don't know about that, that's just a brand, kind of a popularized in the RC world. And this is another standardized type of connector, although we don't see those very often. I am going to try to charge the other battery while we finish our unbox. So I'm going to show you another method you can charge these batteries. So we'll just pop this open. This is from Poboat. So of course we'll link to the spare batteries and we'll link to the ready to run boat. Of course this is ready to run, so it comes with everything you need to actually run it. Now I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to just check real quick and come right back. Okay, so I made a custom cable for this. This is something I just want to point out. I have drawers of adapters. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of battery adapters because we've been doing this for so long. This is from the olden years. So we have an XT60 on a balance lead. Whoops. So I built this onto an XT60 adapter. And you can see on this, this says plus and this says plus. Now I want to point something out. The polarity matters on this balance lead because we've seen this style of plug and it's usually this way, but sometimes it's not, okay? So that doesn't feel like it's gonna work. Is that the same type of connector? And the answer is no, it's not. Oh wait, it isn't. That's a different style. Okay, we'll keep looking. Okay, so this is actually a different style of connector. And I think we had that on a couple of like mini excavators or mini dump trucks or something. This particular plug you have to be careful about because I've seen it with different polarities. Okay, so the positive and negatives are different. I just want to point this out to you. If you ever get a weird battery like this, it's got a different style connector. This is a Hextronics, it's a standard style plug, JST, it's still a Hextronics, but it's JST. And there's also a smaller version that E-flite likes to use, and it has a different pitch on the angle of the connector that goes inside of here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you this real quick. So inside of this little connector, there's a wire that's down like this. It's actually an end that's terminated on the wire. And that pitch, the angle that this sticks down, receives a pin, okay? So if you ever need to get in there and work on it, you can push down one of these things with an X-Acto knife or a flat screwdriver. It's really small, and then you can tug this wire out, okay? So if you ever have an opportunity, the only problem is because the female connector side of it, this is actually a socket, so this is technically a female connector, even though it's a pin as a body, okay? Those things, you have to sacrifice the equipment. So you have to have like a piece of equipment die, like a plane that you crash or whatever. And the reason it matters is because in order to charge this on a proper smart charger or just like even a dumb charger, you would be able to plug this in, but you can't charge it because you have no way to actually attach the actual discharge lead, okay? The discharge lead goes into the actual main plug here. And so for instance, if this was a JST, then you would just insert this and it would land your main discharge on the JST, okay? The cool thing about JST is that you could probably disconnect and disassemble one of these while it's not on, and you could probably feed that in there. We're gonna see if we can do that real quick. All right, so we have all these Molex connectors, and I actually have reverse polarity on this one, so that's the other one that we have. This one's a little easier to disassemble, and so you can see I've actually bent the tip of my X-Acto knife. I'm gonna show you how I did that. You press down on this tab, and then it will allow you to release the wire out of the Molex connector, okay? And yes, Molex is a brand, but it's also, in this case, it's one of the styles of cable. So you have to be really careful when you make a balance lead like that. And yes, that tip got bent, and then I just took and ran it along the bottom of my shelf to straighten it. That's right, you can fix stuff. If you can break it, you can fix it. So guys, here on Brian Phillips RC, even though you're here to learn about boats, you're gonna learn about chargers. That's one of the things we do. It may not be what you're here for, but the thing is, if you need to know how to learn to work with batteries, this is one of the ways you can learn how to work with batteries. Now, obviously, the whole rationale for separating these two leads is to use an exact, a previously built adapter that was designed to charge multiple batteries in parallel, okay? That's an unusual circumstance, but in this case, what I need to do is I'll disconnect this out of the circuit, and then I can just go polarity, should be pretty obvious. We'll go plus and minus. Now, these are the same style connector, just not inside of that goofy cabinet or the case that would normally go into this. Now, one of the big drawbacks to this, and I'm trying to give you guys a good shot, and camera crew and I are trying to work on getting an angle, is you have to control your polarity. So obviously, if this test would work, then I would use this as like a proof of concept, and then I would build myself a special end on this, and it would be like an octopus cable, okay? Which kind of reminds me, I bet that's what I was looking for, because I'm pretty sure one of my octopus cables has this on it. Okay, so then this will now plug into that. But you just kind of have to be careful, because if you have a weak connection like I kind of do there, then these can be allowed to short out. So you have to be extra diligent on your testing, but you can see we got 7.6 volts there. Camera crew is gonna have to move her wrist so that you can actually see it. It disconnected because this wire I used is too stiff, so it released itself. So there's not quite enough flexibility in this cable because it's not a silicone dipped. So whenever you guys get into RC, you're gonna find out one of the biggest things you have to deal with is figuring out how to charge batteries. And a lot of times what you're trying to do is you're just trying to charge something a little quicker because the sun is setting or because you need to get going or whatever. Just one thing to keep in mind is you have to be extra careful and diligent so you don't accidentally start a fire, okay? So being careful is the name of the game. So we've got now our actual discharge lead is hooked to the battery, okay? Now this one here is exactly the same, so I can actually see it a little better. It's a lithium ion, 1500 milliamp 2S. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to press start, scroll up. We're not gonna charge at 20 amps. We're gonna run that down to 1.5 amps. And then we're gonna change the battery type from LiPo to lithium ion. And then we're gonna go down and hit start. Now, the reason you have to have a balance charge port plugged in is because that's how, and this is like one of those octopus cables I was talking about. I have one like this, it's got like 20 ends on it. In this case, that's the one I was looking for and I didn't find it, okay? So as with all things RC, there's a million different devils that are in the details. So I'm just gonna real carefully slide that back. Now this is gonna charge pretty quick because we have 200 watts on 2 channels on this S2200. Now, this little S155 would also do 55 watts per channel and it'd be really good. And that's gonna be considerably more than what comes in the ready to run output. That one's only gonna charge at 500 milliamp hours, if I remember right. So it's gonna be, the output is 7.4, 500 milliamp hours. Now, I can never tell if that means 500 milliamp hours nominal or 500 milliamp hours to each cell separately. That'd be 1,000 total, 1 amp, okay? So I doubt it's going at 1 amp. It's gonna be about 250 milliamp hours per cell, okay? This is going at 1.5 amps, and I believe that's nominal. So that'd be 750 per cell, okay? So it's just simple addition and subtraction when you're in the parallel world, and that's what these batteries are. 2S would be in series, 2P would be in parallel, but we usually don't have parallel packs hardly ever anymore. All right, so getting back to where we were, which was on the unbox, we've got these batteries here. They do come in the package. Whoops. They're kind of hard to get to though. And whenever you get one of these pro boats, you're gonna be getting, if they're ready to run, then you actually get them with the batteries. Okay, so we'll pop this out. It looks like comes with 4. And so it's kind of hard to tell from looking at this. They'll tell you in the manual, but I can just tell you right now because the spring is gonna go to the negative. Man, that's like it doesn't go in. Oh, there it goes. I was having trouble getting it to slide down. So these transmitters are pretty much all the same. They either use 3 batteries or they use 4. And sometimes you'll have a helicopter that uses 6, and it just has to do with the voltage. Okay, so then when that closes, the negative will be pressed by this. And this is one of those unique circumstances where it actually isn't very obvious. You can see how I scored that in the center. It made it pop off a little easier. Just don't cut your battery. And then on this, I'm gonna go negative down, so the little bump, positive is up. And this one likes to catch halfway down, which is unusual. Okay, so once that closes, you can power it on. You can tell that it's working. So that's good. So we'll shut that back off. And then we have a little boat stand that says Pro Boat here. Okay. And what do we have here? This is the actual hull of the boat. And we're looking at what is actually the top of the boat. I thought that was gonna be the bottom. And as you can see, we have a little bumper right here. Okay. And there's like a little hole in the middle. I think that's because you can put a pusher on this as well, but I don't see that included in the kit. So this one comes with a latch that toggles opened or closed. Ah, there's the pusher. Okay, so then the pusher itself is a choice of adding this to the front of the boat or not. It comes with all the tools you need. So as you can see right here, it comes with a bolt, a washer, okay? And then of course the hex key, which is gonna allow you to put this onto the boat. So that goes in there just like that. Doesn't quite reach in there though. That's weird. So as you screw this on, then, oh, you know what? That's because I think it goes the other way actually. Sorry guys, duh. Goes this way, like that. Then this becomes your recovery boat. And so what's so cool about having a recovery boat is that you can drive this out on the water and then you can push your plane or your other boat that flipped over back. Now, real quick, you remember what I was talking about? How you have to have a device die to get one of these sacrificially for a charger. Okay, so the first time we have one die, we'll do that. So we have a dynamite brushed motor, looks like right here. Goes over to the electronic speed control. We got some plugs here that go to this. This is a receiver. And then we have a singular 9-gram servo. We can't tell for sure. And that's gonna turn this nozzle, and that's the output tube. Now that doesn't come off, so that's kind of a bummer. But you would have to take all these screws apart to get under that. I don't even know if that comes apart then. Yeah, that would only access the top. So don't get anything inside of there, guys. Looks like you can actually, if you need to get in there to clean, you can undo these 4 screws, and I think that whole nozzle assembly would come off, and you could rinse water through this. But again, this is kind of designed as you know, something that you would play with in your pool. And so what we're gonna do is we'll show you what it looks like when we have all the decals on. Of course, Pro Boat always includes a little boat stand, and you've got the transmitter, and we're gonna take a quick second and look at the decals next. So before we start the decals, I just wanna show you on the XPC checker, which I always say battery checker, but it also is a servo checker. This is the one that's been charging on the Ruco power adapter, and you can see that's at about 59%, okay? So now the reason that, okay, so we'll get that going again. That's what comes in, you're ready to run. But then look at this, guys, this is at 75%. It's been going considerably less time, and we're not going beyond spec on the battery. So that's part of the reason why when we do these unbox build radio setups, I mean, first of all, there's not a whole lot to go over on most of these small boats and simpler helicopters and things like this that we've got here. One of the biggest challenges for people that are getting in the hobby when they're getting gifts and things like that. You know, if you guys are buying this boat for somebody, especially as a Christmas present, you're buying it for somebody that's not in Iowa. Because we're in central Iowa, so we're up against deadlines. The sun is starting to set early. If you guys are closer to the equator, like if you're in Florida or whatever, right now, you're probably dealing with a hurricane. But if you're buying gifts for people and you don't know how to do things with batteries like this, you don't have to do any of that stuff. But for us, and with, you know, this is just sitting here in my kitchen, okay? This is normal for us. So we know what this is. We know that's a discharge lead. We know this is the data lead. We know there's no balance lead on this because there is a charging circuit under here. And we know that this is 5,000 milliamp hours, or basically 5 amp hours, and that it's 50C, which means it's like a mid-grade charge rate, or discharge rate rather. And then it's 6S, so there's 6 cells in series. These are the types of things that you won't know if you're not in the hobby on an everyday basis, or you're not doing this the way that we do. And so some of the stuff that's the hardest stuff to figure out is like, how the heck do I charge this battery? And why are there 2 plugs on it? Those are the types of things that I had trouble with when I got back into the hobby. And that's why sometimes it might feel like we're beating a dead horse. The truth is that's where people have a lot of questions that don't get answered, because the hobby companies just assume you know all this stuff. You probably don't. If you're brand new and you don't know, don't feel like you're stupid or, you know, like, why don't I know this stuff? They don't really tell you, okay? So don't feel bad. And by the way, this looks like it's got about 9 minutes on the charge and it's at 80%. That's coming from storage voltage level, which would have been about 3.8 volts per cell. And this thing, this would be the same, except we've been charging it for darn near, I would say 40 minutes. There was a little gap in there while I was trying to figure out that stupid connector, okay? The reason we wanted that charger hooked up is because we could do it a lot faster, and we were trying to hit a window where the sun was out. Well, the sun is not out, so no longer a rush it is. But what we have to do is we have to put decals on. So that's what we're gonna do right now. And that's one of One of the reasons why we do this channel is because we know people need help, and we also want you guys to be able to get the full answers to your questions. And a lot of the other guys are just like, you know, let's throw this plane out on a table in some dark room with like neon lights on, and we'll make a short. Okay, great. Congratulations. That's wonderful for a short. But we're here to answer questions. We're here to like put some meat on the bone, okay? Because what's the point? Oh, by the way, look at this. There's two different liveries that come inside.
Okay.
Okay, so one is designed for the white boat. By the way, don't forget you've got that thing still probably on your counter. And then this is actually a sticker as well. See, it says Pro Boat. Okay, so that's there too. So I think this one is supposed to use this color.
Yep.
But you could also put this on, and it's really your decision how you want to handle that. But I guess the whole point in our conversation is sometimes we go a little deeper, and that's because we're trying to teach you something that you may not want or need to know on a regular basis, because maybe you got this as a gift for your kid or for your grandkid or your cousin or your nephew or whatever, somebody that lives in, you know, on the Gulf of Mexico or whatever, that's going to be able to play with this. It stays hot all year, or in California or whatever. We're in Iowa, it's going to be cold, so we're not going to be playing with boats much longer this year. And so we're really excited to be able to do these boats, but we're pretty much out of season, okay? If you're in an area where you're not out of season, then we're jealous of you, okay? All right, so right here we've got, where are the, do they show the pictures?
Let's see if it...
Okay, so we're gonna go, we've decided we're gonna go with that.
Stick with the yellow that it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and then we'll just put the rest of this stuff in here. Oh, and by the way, one other thing too, if you want to educate yourself a little bit more about batteries, I mention this just about every time we open up a Horizon style battery, because they have this connector guide, and it's really helpful. If you're just learning about batteries, it's going to be invaluable. So you may need to pause the video right here and figure out which one you're talking about. But we kind of blast through it quick on this channel because we talk about 50 times more than the average channel about connectors and batteries and polarity and parallel versus series. But that's where, oh, there's actually another one. Whoops.
Oh, there is. Oh,
yeah.
And I did find there is a decal, placing the decals on page 4.
Okay, I kind of like this one,
red?
but what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I like the white ones too, but the white ones are probably going to be better for that boat. So you guys can pick. So if you get two of these, and you know you want to be able to differentiate them so that it's easier to tell when you're driving, then this is what you'll do. Okay, so over the shoulder, and by the way, you don't need to leave that boat pusher as an optional choice. So you can put it on or you can leave it off. I am going to go ahead and put my lid on. Now, just to be clear, there's an O-ring material that goes all the way around. So when this seats down and drops down in, you'll make your positive seal. And this is a displacement-based flotation. So if you want this thing to not be lost, if there is a complete loss of power or the lid, then one thing you can do that's really smart is you can take a piece of foam and put it in here, okay? Now, you don't need a huge piece of foam, but you need something that's trapped. Generically, you can either glue a little bit on here so that if the top separates, this won't sink. Or you need to, like, sometimes you gotta tuck it in here, like a long tube of foam. In fact, we can do that now because we have time. Camera crew and I packed up while we were between takes.
Yep.
Whoops. So let's show you that right now, because I know a lot of you guys at home are looking for some extra value on these videos, and that's why you watch the Unbox Build radio setups. You've got foam that comes with this product, okay? So we're gonna use what comes with the product. Now, this is obviously gonna float. This has a little bit more bigger, like it's got bigger pores in it, so it might not be quite as good at displacement as some other choices, but you can stick your fingers in between these layers and separate them like this. Now, that's not gonna be pretty enough for, like, say, a screwdriver stand, but it'll definitely work to float your boat. Haha. Okay, so then the choice becomes which size, which shape is the best? Well, you're gonna have to make a decision on your own on which size, which shape is the best. But I'm gonna take a pair of scissors, and I'll probably use, there's two different types of glue I'd recommend for this, either foam to foam or China glue. China glue is probably gonna be a little bit more tacky right off the bat, so I'll go with that for this model. By the way, this foam to foam you can order when you're ordering this Pro boat, so maybe we'll just use that. The China glue, it's an FMS thing, so go with this. Because then when you order your boat, you can get this at the same time. So we'll put the decals on second after we do our flotation. Now remember, we're not trying to find, you know, like float and run and be perfect. We're just trying to find enough that will displace, you know, so it just kind of like stays floating like this. It's gonna be wet, you'll have to dry it out and all that jazz. And then same thing on this lid. You just need enough to actually hold this little portion up. But you don't want to interfere with the hot motor, okay? It's like right here in the center, you're not going to want to put it. So we'll put it up here, and that's going to give us a little bit of room to work with. And see, this is solid. So that's going to be like the biggest piece we can put on. So now when you guys see the unbox build radio setup on Brian Phillips RC, you'll realize, oh yeah, well, they're going to bring some extra value. Maybe there's some tip or trick that they're going to share that the other guys didn't share, and there's a good chance we will. And it might just be, you know, us making things difficult, but in this case, this is actually really helpful. We've lost a boat before because of this. And remember, that needs to be inside of this rim, okay? So that would probably float this. This thing ain't very heavy, okay? Now, if you want to test it, you can like quite literally fill your sink with water.
Yeah.
And just try to put it in there, see if it floats.
And like you said, we're not trying to run it this way. It's just to buy you time to go out and get it should you have a problem.
Yeah, it's not like you need to make it go 30 miles an hour upside down, separated like this. Okay, so then I'll just go like right here on the edge and on the edge. Now, normally I would have like a Q-tip or something, but I'm gonna go really low tech here. Really low tech, watch this, guys. See, this has square edges. I'm just gonna trim a little teeny bit off the edges. So I've got that little 45-degree angle. So folks, this is why people come to Brian Phillips RC, is because we do stupid little crafty solutions like this. And then watch this. Now I'm gonna peel this off. I'm gonna let this cook off. That's what we call it, cooking off, okay? So once that's got a little bit of glue on it, and this has a little bit of glue spread, it's hard to see because it's so clear. I can actually spread a little bit of it here. And then we let that cook off. Now, that's one of the reasons why I like China glue or this foam to foam, is you can rub that right off and your hands are clean. There's no residue. It's not gonna be like super dangerous. I'm not gonna grow like a fourth arm. Okay, so we'll let that set up for just a second. And once that sets up, it's gonna become a contact adhesive, as it should be by its design. And then we lost this amount of displacement to make it nice and neat. Now, in order to fill this, I want it to be in up around the lip. Okay, so because we have this square, we've got a long swath of it. So I am going to actually try to cut at an angle. See this? I just take this, scissors, go to a 45. Now kids, be careful, get your parents to help you with this step. If you're doing this on your own, just be really careful. I'm strong and this is kind of hard to do. You see how I've got the one blade setting my cut point and the second blade is just what it's coming to, and then sometimes you have to help it along. Remember, if you do stupid things, you get stupid prizes. That's what I do on Brian Phillips RC. So now we have a triangular tube. And then this, we just got to keep it away from the hot spot. Can be stuffed up in there. See, pretty simple, pretty basic. And so I just don't want it to touch there. Now this one we may not have to glue in, so it may be a lot simpler setup. And that's gonna make displacement. So even if, yeah, we just gotta make sure it doesn't come out, okay? Because it has to be a pressure fit now. Now this one, we can cut here and make another triangle out of it. Because remember, our objective is to make a triangle so that it can kind of go into the hole shape. And since this is foam, it doesn't need to be a perfect fit. It just needs to fit. And kind of the imperfection of the fit will make it go in there. Now, remember, this is not gonna prevent the self-righting or not self-righting, okay? It's going to be complementary only when it's opened up and exposed to water, so that it's gonna hopefully keep it just buoyant enough that you can go recover it, okay? And remember, the electronics are not really designed to be like underwater, so you're gonna have to dry it out. You'll have to rinse it with, clean water. Let's see which one of these triangles works better. Ooh, that one's way better fit. So a little bit of guess and check there. I just don't like that it touches the edge of the motor, because this airspace is designed to actually allow this motor to cool. And you see we've got a little air gap around there, but it's just barely there, okay? This is a brushed motor, so it's gonna get pretty toasty in there. So I'm gonna take and trim right here. Remember, the more we trim, the more this becomes a waste of time, okay? But we don't want it to catch on fire either. Fire or water, right? That's what happens with boats.
Would be interesting, yeah.
Okay, so now that's in there. It's trapped. It's not gonna come out. We've got a good gap there. We don't want to interfere with our linkage. We don't want to interfere with our servo. So obviously we can still run our steering. We don't want to interfere with where the battery is going to be. We don't want to accidentally disconnect cables, and we don't want to keep it wet in the wrong space at the wrong time, okay? So I think our next option is, if we can make this taco up into the nose cone, that would be great. So again, all materials that come with your ready to run boat. Just a quick and dirty idea from Brian Phillips RC, which you can implement on your own if you decide you want to have a little bit better recovery success. Now, is that going to pop out? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
Could you cut that one in half?
Cut it in half?
Like long ways, just so it's not sticking out quite so much?
I think I'm gonna have to take this top edge. That's what I'll do. But I'm just mostly concerned about this. That quick disconnect, I can actually pull that down, okay? I'm gonna pull that down just so that it's in a place where it can and will then dry out in the event that a little bit of water gets inside of here, and it will, believe me, there'll be a little bit of water that makes it in this hole every time you run this boat. Okay, see how I'm pushing this? It's not wanting to slide down, so I have to grab and pull this half of the tube down just a little bit, and then I can take my thumb and kind of center that and squirrel it in there, okay? Now that's in there pretty tight, okay? Now that that's up in there, I'm pretty confident about where it's positioned, and I'm just sliding my wires up in there to protect my connections from when you load the battery. Okay, now, so a little bit more waste here. Generally speaking, when we do these modifications to our products, it's just you know, like a check and balance because we're running out in our own pond. Okay. This has been able to cook off for a little bit, so I'll show you how that works. Now that it's sat, okay, so it's just like a pressure fit. And then, like I show people all the time on the airplane, it's kind of hard to hold on to the foam, but the foam is stuck. See? You could get it to pull if you really tried, but as you can see, it's pretty much there. It's not coming off. Now, give that another day or two, and it's gonna be like completely permanently there forever, okay? Now, you can see we're in front of where the motor is. We're out of the way of all the controls. We can put this little keeper here, this pawl, I think you'd call that a pawl. That pawl goes in, and then this thing, you just have to turn the knob so that it drops down, and there you have it. So you can't even tell, you're none the wiser. It's not gonna change the way that the boat performs, with the exception of the extra 4 grams or whatever we put in there. So it's very little weight. This turns, the top comes off as it always had. So pretty easy modification, and that might just save your boat. Because I mean, there's one thing about boats that we've learned, and that is, if you completely sink them to the bottom of your pond, it's disappointing. We've only learned that once, thank God. And it was learned for me while I was at work, which was also kind of frustrating. All right, so we're gonna take a second cleanup from that, and we'll do decals next. Okay, so if you're curious where these model stickers go, Camera Crew is gonna frame that. You guys can pause the video. Now, the other thing too is if you ever wanna see an entire manual about a product we're doing, and this, not just boats, not just airplanes, every product that we do, you can always follow the link in the video description below. That's also where we recommend you go to buy them, because when you follow those links, we make small commissions on the sales of said items, okay? So again, we're never trying to talk you into getting the wrong thing at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. But if you decide to buy, buying from the link does support Brian Phillips RC. And that's like one of the #1 ways you can support us financially, in addition to watching the videos. Okay, so like I said, basically the gist of it is when there's a manual you need, you click on the link, it'll bring you to the item. The item, if it's a Horizon item, I think usually you have to scroll down a little bit. You have to select whatever the product is because we'll have like multiple colors available. And sometimes there's size classes. Like for instance, if it was the T28, there'd be like a T28 1.5, there'd be the Carbon Z. And then of course there'd be, you know, any other future sizes that haven't been released yet that we'll be sharing you about as soon as they come out. You would click on the plane that you want that's in the right size class, and then you would just scroll down and they have tabs that bring you to the full downloadable manuals. And those ones are the updated ones. So sometimes if you're looking for an older item, you have to check. It's usually on your, it'd be over here.
Your left over here.
It'd be on your left when you're looking at the computer screen. This is my right. And it's gonna say show discontinued items. If you click that, then you can find the item. So if you're watching an old video, and we do that, we keep our videos evergreen so they're always up, and you can find exactly what you're looking for. And that's part of the reason on Brian Phillips RC that we do such in-depth reviews, because we know it's gonna be a tool that people draw from for years to come. By the way, they also say in the manual that this is a Phillips head. It's not a Phillips. I believe it's a 2mm hex drive, okay? We can confirm that with a 2mm. So we said decals like hours ago in this video. So obviously there's gonna be a number of decals that have to be put on here, and we're gonna work on that right now. So they show that the 5, okay, so this is the 4 side. So this is how you can tell. You lay this out and that becomes number 4. I've never understood why they do that. They show it in the manual, but they don't show it on the decals. It makes it kind of hard. Okay, so this is jet. Okay, so that's clear there too, so it'll go on either color. So this number 4 is with it pointed this direction. Yeah, that's gonna work. Get that little chunk, will you? There's 2 of them. What is it?
It's like a little plasticky piece.
Oh, okay, you got it. I thought it was a piece of foam. Okay, so super easy, high quality decals. These are really easy to put on. They're not wet decals. Wet decals, you know, can give you a little bit better finish, but when it's a super smooth body, it's not a big deal. If there's not a ton of like undulation, different shapes and stuff like that, contours that you're trying to get around, it's pretty easy to put these on. And same thing over here. It's got to be the glue. There's probably the China glue I was using. Okay, so in this case, I'll just try to get this side tacked down. See, that was smart. I did that bottom edge. That helped me get the corner right. And then the wrap took care of itself. But then I got this little bump. If you ever get little bumps, work the bumps first, and then a lot of times the decal will slip. And you see how you got a bubble there? I don't know if you guys can pick up on that. Then I usually work bubbles to the edges, and then I just slide all the way to the front. And if you do a good job, this stuff will disappear into the finish. And so you can see here where I kind of screwed up. Cool thing is about this boat is on your first go around, you can actually delaminate that and retry if you make a mistake. Okay, so then same thing here. Now that I kind of have the orientation correct, it should be pretty easy. It looks like number 3. This is the top. It's kind of like the, right here. Kind of like over the engine, where the engine would be if this was a real boat. Now, jet boats are a little bit different too. Remember, jet boats are nice because you don't have a spinning propeller to worry about your kids getting their fingers cut on, but also they can be a little bit challenging to drive, so it's kind of a weird combo, okay? When you have a jet boat, the prop is not exposed, but then if you get debris in here, it will clog up the jet. So if you got a lot of debris in your pool, you might want to clean that out before you run one of these boats. They'll still run, but it just slows them down. It makes them less fun, in my experience. Looks like number 2 is this one. Oh, that's supposed to be like a big wrappy one. It's not. It's actually smaller now. See where they cut it? Well, looks like this one came off first, so we'll just start there. Sorry, folks, I meant to go for this one, but I guess I'm going to put the windscreen on, or I guess this would be like the front window. This one's going to be kind of tricky. How the heck do I tell where it aligns?
It'd be better with the lid off so it would sit flat.
No, because I know what I want to do. I want to try to hit the center reference. Once I get the center on there, trying to get my gap even, top and bottom, but it's like there's no reference. So it makes it a little bit tricky. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then same thing over here. You see how it laid? This stuck first. So usually what I try to do is I'll walk the decal down to the end. So here on Brian Phillips RC, you want to show all these details because we understand some of you aren't with the hobby for a long time. You may be just getting started. We want to help you with all the tricks that we can share. Okay, so this is going to go right on the middle, on the top, right? Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes, goes right here. That ain't going to stick with a darn. I have to go back just a little further than what they show. You see how this longer Horizon Hobby portion, see, it's going to want to bubble. So one thing you can do is, because if these are vinyl stickers, which I don't know that they're vinyl. See how it doesn't want to lay down? Sometimes you have to make some friction, and that friction will heat up the decal, and then it'll lay flat so that you get that good adhesion. Now, of course, it's just a bunch of advertisements, so like, who cares? Not that big a deal, unless, of course, you work with these companies to try to sell their product on YouTube. I'm just kidding. Shameless advertising. At the end of the day, guys, you know, we don't really hide that fact. I mean, we are trying to sell these products with these companies. That's why they're called affiliate companies. We're affiliates, so that means that we're affiliated with them, but that's about where it stops. We just want you guys to get a crack at some of the best RC stuff. And sometimes, you know, like when you look online, everything looks good if you listen to what the marketing agencies say. Now, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not good, and we share them exactly as they come out of the package. And if they suck, then they suck on camera, and you guys get to make that decision. But whether or not an item sucks is a somewhat subjective thing. Now, of course, with the airplanes, that's our mainstay, but we just dug this pond, and we've been doing a lot of boats. We love boats. I've always loved boats. I've been doing boats my whole life, but I never really had an awesome place until I was a teenager. My parents, well, actually, my mom died, and then we built a house when my dad remarried, and they built a house together in the country, and it was kind of like less in the country than we are, but it was still in the country. And so then my dad dug a pond, and the difference is his pond took like 2 days to make, and ours took 14 months, which is kind of like,
it's killing you.
If he was a normal review, then we would be the Brian Phillips RC review, which I guess it's not all in the family, but anyway. So we started doing that, and we had a pond, but the crazy thing is I don't remember maybe like one boat, or I don't even remember a boat. It's so crazy. We had access to that and we didn't use it. It was so dumb. I should have been crazy about it, but I wasn't. And it's just the difference of the pond, I guess, and whether or not you write the check for it. Because we had 3 ponds in our old neighborhood where we used to live. They were retention ponds, and one of them was pretty big and nice, and then the other 2 were just real small. But boats are super fun. They're really, really fun. Obviously, our mainstay is airplanes, and if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, you may not realize that, but what we do most of the time is fixed wing airplane, airplanes. But we also do helicopters, quads, and VTOLs, and then RC trucks, RC cars, crawlers, all the different types that you can get. We do all that stuff on Brian Phillips RC, and we try to do it in such a way that we can show you what's available. And the cool thing is, because we work with all these different brands, that was one of the biggest things when we started working with Horizon Hobby. Horizon's one of the biggest. We said, we're going to keep doing all these other brands we do, because our objective is to meet our audience's demands and not necessarily your marketing, objectives. And of course, if we're part of the marketing objectives, that's great, because that means that we get our hands on the products and we can show you if they're any good. Plus, I get to play with them, which is awesome. But like this Draco, we love being able to bring you guys products when they're not released, and then you can see if they're any good. The difference between us and some of our competitors is we're going to show you all the problems too. And that doesn't mean that we're going to bash every product, because this is not going to be as good as the last 2 pro boats we did. Do you want to know why? Because it costs 1/6 as much.
Right.
And it's a ready to run. And this is more of for us, this will be a fun recovery boat. We'll let the kids play with it. It'll be no big deal. But I can hand this to my 7-year-old and not be worried about a $600 boat coming back broken. okay? And I mean, we're just like you in that sense.
Or not coming back at all.
Exactly, and that did happen on one of our first boats. But we have moved on from that.
And it wasn't a 7-year-old.
It wasn't our 7-year-old, it was our oldest. I told him I wasn't done with it, but I think he got a little confused because that was the first time he ever did that. So anyway, the long story short is we want to make sure you guys have access to the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. When we do these reviews, we don't mean to bash the companies we affiliate with, and we don't mean to cover for them either. And so if this thing sucks, like the last, I think 2 boats ago, we did a pro boat that didn't self-right. And that was like one of its things. It was like one of its claims to fame. Okay. We're going to show that too on this boat. And you've already seen it because this always comes at the end. The unbox build radio setup is usually something that we do at the end of some of the ready to run, ready to fly products that we review. Okay. It's not always that way. Sometimes do them separately. Because there's a little bit more involved on box build radio setup. I know. How can it be more involved? Trust me, it gets more involved because a lot of times you're using, instead of this, you're using something like this NX10, which is a programmable transmitter. And we've got 240 some odd planes and other aircraft, helicopters and whatnot in here. We're going to show you exactly how to take full advantage of each of these products, or at least enough that you can get your feet wet and learn what you need to learn so that you can come back and say, you know, I need some help on this one. Like I want to do it, but I work in the office. I don't work with my hands. I don't know anything about technology. I'm not sure about lipos. I don't want to burn my house down. And really that is something to keep in mind. Lipos and lithium ion packs, that's probably the biggest danger that this whole hobby poses, is just the chemistry, the actual batteries. The best thing you can do for safety is just be in the room while it's charging. Simple as that. And by the way, speaking of charging, this one's done, and it's been done for some time, okay? So you can see it is at 0 amps. That's how much is going into it. And then you can see it's just trying to balance, okay? Okay, pretty good. And then over here, this one here, it's still, sorry guys, it's over here. I must have, when I knocked this out when I was filming and it fell to the ground, so I just like plugged it back in off camera. That was like 2 seconds, so I'm not trying to cheat on the charge speed, but you can see this is at 70% still, okay? So there is a reason that I was so feverishly trying to get this adapter to work, because I knew that it was gonna be a pain in the neck, it was gonna be slow with the provided charger. Now, does that mean that it's not working? No, it's just slow because it's charging through the balance lead, and that means it can only go as fast as that balancing circuit can handle. And that's why this type of charger is better, because we're gonna force the power into the discharge lead. The discharge lead is actually the lead, like, I'll give you a better example than the one I pulled out before. This is a discharge lead, it's a monster. This is a balance lead. This is a 6S4000 milliamp hour, and it's got an IC5, so that's like a 90 amp rated plug, okay? That's a lot of current, okay? And if you go down to the, well, it'd be a 60 amp rated. I'm sorry, I misspoke. This is an XT60, it's supposedly a 60 amp rated. This one's actually technically 90, because it would be equivalent to the XT90 size. XT90 looks just like this, only about double the size. XT30 is about half the size. We're gonna teach you all these things. We can't squeeze it all into one video. We squeeze a lot more than the competitors. And that's part of the reason why, even if you go to the competitors and you're watching them drive a boat, or you're watching them fly a helicopter, retract the gear, or whatever it happens to be in shorts, we're gonna be here to walk you step by step by step from unbox to running, okay? Now, yes, we put it out of order on these, not to confuse, but just because people usually just wanna see the run. And if you're in that small minority of people that really need help, we're here for you. And we're not gonna abandon you, okay? So when you're here on Brian Phillips RC, we're gonna show you all the steps so that you can be confident that you can enjoy your product, okay? And a lot of times that means you're watching this the night before Christmas and you're saying, what do I need to do? Okay, so this is on now, okay? We're gonna grab the battery that's charged. Okay, so the one we plugged in and did all this hoopla for, if you do this weird technique, okay? Just remember, you wanna get this unplugged, carefully pull this out so that you don't short, okay? And then we'll just, we'll probably end up putting our Molex back together at some point. And I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but there is a tiny little tab right there that we released. You see that? And I'll show you with the knife actually, because it's, I don't even think they can see what I was pointing out. So that tab is right here. Look at this, guys.
I can't see it now. Oh, there I can.
Just hold on. You guys see this? I'm pulling it up. You see that? That's the tab that actually protrudes up into this plastic body and holds the pin so that when you unplug the battery, it doesn't pull out. Pretty crazy, right? And look how much faster that charging was. I mean, it was like by a factor of like 5 or 6 times faster. Okay, so we're definitely gonna have to find a sacrificial plane. I think we got a plane down there that looked like a drone, a Predator drone. And it had this style of connector. And it was dead on arrival.
It was.
And I think I can go cut that one off, and I'll basically make my own little adapter so that we can use it when we need to charge these type of batteries in the future. And that's what we do in Brian Phillips RC and in life in general. We make little investments into our future selves. And that's what you're doing when you watch a Brian Phillips RC video. It may be a little bit longer, a little bit more tedious, and but we're gonna help you learn skills that you didn't have before. So you're gonna walk away from a Brian Phillips RC not only a little bit more wise in the RC arena, but you're probably gonna pick up lots of other little tips and tricks that help make your overall life experience better. And that's what we aim to do. We hope that we have met all of your demands. So let's go ahead and plug this in, and then we'll fix that a little bit later. All right, so in order to actually run this, we have to turn the knob, pop the lid open. Look at all that foam, amazing. This is the main discharge lead. There's also a power switch here. There's on and off. So technically you want that off. It's got a little silicone switch cover. So it's in the on position. Now it's in the off position. Okay, so I'm gonna slide this in. This needs a place to fall into, but you can press it in because that foam will just get out of the way now. And if it doesn't, then you might have to squish part of your foam in a little bit further. So here we go. We'll see if we can get that in. There it is. Now you see what just happened there. I pressed it in really hard and it kind of ran into that lead a little bit. You want to make sure you're not running into that lead to the point of piercing your battery pack. Now you can put a voltage alarm on here, and if you don't know what a voltage alarm is, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I'll bring one over. You can stay right there, camera crew. So voltage alarms come many different sizes, many different shapes. And I'll just show you 3 that are in my hand right now. You know, a dime a dozen. You can get these for about $4 or $5, or maybe like 3 for 10 bucks, depends on where you're buying them. This one's a simpler design. There is no adjustable voltage alarm level on this style, okay? But it's smaller, okay? And it just has LEDs to show full and whether or not it's low or high. This is 1 through 8S. There's a negative and a positive. So the negative would go right here, the negative most lead, and then it plugs in, and you can see the actual value of the nominal. That's 8.2 nominal, 4.9 and 4.8, okay? Pretty simple. And then this thing can actually tuck down into the boat, and then when it reaches a desired set point, 3.3 in this case, you can change that all the way up to off, or you can run it at 2.7, which would be crazy. I would suggest on a boat, you'd probably be like, you know, 3.3 or 3.4, with the understanding that a boat draws a pretty good amount of power to move. These are gonna have sometimes low voltage protection or low voltage cutoff, even worse. Low voltage protection, it'll go from full amplitude to like 70, or it'll pulse as you're running, or it'll pulse and then eventually cut. So it cuts the power if it reaches a certain low voltage cutoff. That's to protect the battery from over discharge. Because if you over discharge these batteries, they won't be allowed then to recharge. unless you cheat, and we do know how to do that on Brian Phillips RC, and we've shared it a number of times. Okay, so I just tucked that down into the void. Now this is a keyed pack, so you only have one way to plug it in. It pushes in, and you can turn this to the on condition, and there's a small LED that lights there. And you can see our transmitter is already on. So now you can look back here, you can see the servo is actuating the thrust tube. And then I'm gonna just give it a little bit of throttle. Very good. So there it is. So that's how it produces thrust. And also, that's probably how it self-rights too. Is it just pressing the button? There's the button. Aux 3, that's a self-right. So you hold it, and it just uses the actual torque from the motor to flip itself back over, okay? So the steering can also be adjusted through trims and dual rates. Dual rates are going to be right here. So steering trim and steering dual rates. So watch this. As I turn the knob to one side or the other, I'm gonna use this dual rate knob. I'm gonna turn it all the way up. Look what happens. The thrust tube moves further. Now I'm gonna go the other way. See how it's overdriving? You can see it's moving the whole thing. See how it moves the body? Mm-hmm. That means it's overdriving, okay? So you've run out of throw, and you're hitting the edge of this little plastic right there. Watch. It hits, boom. So the dual rates, I'm gonna back that off until I don't see the engagement in the plastic there. See how it hits eventually? Then once it unhits, that's the highest I can go and actually make that work. So we have the maximum amount of throw. Now you could also heat up a knife and melt that little corner that hits, and you could open up the movement a little bit more if you want. You could also take and move this from whatever hole it's in. It looks like it's in the 1, 2, 3rd hole. 5, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes. If you went to the 6th hole, this would move further and faster. There'd be plenty of torque to do it, but you'd have to modify this thrust tube assembly so that it would actually turn further. But my expectation is that it's gonna have plenty of differential to actually cause this boat to steer. But keep in mind, the more extreme your thrust tube movements, the harder it is to drive the boat in a straight line, okay? And so that's where the dual rates come in. That is basically the amount at full deflection that the servo is gonna move, okay? Now, if you didn't have a dual rate knob, you could still do the exact same thing, but you would be stuck to the amplitude differential between that hole and the next hole in for less throw, or the next hole out for more throw. So it's the same exact function, except it's a mechanical solution instead of an electronic or a digital solution. Okay, so it's super easy to adjust. This is actually analog on a digital controller, but it's analog on a trim pot, okay? All right, so there it is, guys. You know more than you did before you started, unless you're like me and you're a giant nerd. And all you have to do now to get this thing ready to fully run would be to put the lid on. Very easy to put the lid on, even with our foam upgrades. And it looks pretty sweet, actually. The stickers really add a lot to this. We did a competitive offering recently, but I don't remember it coming with the push.
This is the first one we've had that's had that.
Now,
sure.
That is also not super robust, so just keep that in mind. And admittedly, I think that it's gonna be kind of fun to have that because this is gonna be a utility that we could use and draw on. But at the end of the day, do I want that on there for our video? I don't know. I guess the idea is it's nice that you have the tools to actually put that on. I would have really liked to see that be a clip-on so that you don't have to have a tool involved, okay? Or a thumb nut. A thumb nut would be nice because then you could take this off. You could store it inside of the boat. So if you want to use it as a recovery boat, then you can. But without further ado, there you have it, the Jet Jam 12-inch pool boat. Pretty cool pool racer, and it's a ready to run. So guys, hopefully we answered all your questions, and then we Hopefully didn't lead you to too many new questions, but if you do have questions that we didn't answer, leave them in the comments below. But as usual on Brian Phillips RC, we take deep dives into each of these products that we review, trying to help you guys get a little bit further in your progression into the RC addiction. Hobby. And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. Also, if you want to help support us and you don't want to buy this boat, you can buy all sorts of other products. We have reviewed literally thousands of products. Well, I don't know about thousands of products, but we've done 2,100 some odd videos, and then shorts derived from that would probably add up to another, 300-400. But if you look on brianphillipsrc.com, or you can go to bprc.me, it's down there, it should be on your side. You can see that the watermark of our video will help you to find our domain. That's our website. That's just a short link, takes you to the same exact place, Brian Phillips RC. And you can sort by type. If you go to type, you can see grab vehicles, you can see, or surface vehicles, ride-on equipment like e-bikes, and you can do fixed wing aircraft, obviously, because that's our mainstay, helicopters, quads, VTOLs, all that stuff. And then of course, boats. So if you want to see a different competitive offering and see if you liked it maybe better, maybe I was more excited about it, maybe it did better in the water, maybe I didn't sink it and I'd sink this one, I don't know. Just whatever the case is, you can make your value judgments there. And then if you decide to buy, we also have links to buy there, as well as links to the playlist on YouTube. Part of the reason we do that is because YouTube's playlist search sucks.
Yes.
But you can search for videos pretty well. Okay, so you can use Google to search for a YouTube video if you want.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why YouTube is such a powerful resource, which is why the hobby companies like to work with us. I love this hobby. I want to grow it. I want to advance it. So we have a lot of the same interests. Of course, they want to sell this particular product. We don't really care which one you buy. We just want you to be buying some hobby product that you're going to love and enjoy, so that you can enjoy this amazing hobby with us and not just watch us do it. Because at the end of the day, watching is fun, but doing is even more fun. So you want to follow along by subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell for notifications here on Brian Phillips RC. That's one way you can help us. Also, you can click, obviously, the like button. That helps. It costs nothing. If you decide you want to buy this product, go to the video description below. You can see the boat. We usually link to the battery. If there's like a spare battery you could buy, and then if we had a transmitter we had to buy, we would show that. But in this case, this is a ready to run package. So you can just buy this and it'll come with the transmitter. In fact, it'll come with the battery. The 4 AA batteries that we use in here, we didn't have to provide. So that's really nice for us too. But if you're using the NX10 or the NX7E or the NX6 or 8, whatever it happens to be, we'll show that there, as well as whatever flight pack we used or battery for a car that we used. A lot of times the cars do come ready to run, and so that will be included. Also, if you need to get spare parts, you can follow the link to this product, and there will almost always be links to spare parts within that link. Or if there isn't, we will link to them for you there, which we do on some of the helicopters we review, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so, or like I said earlier, you can also find the manuals there. So lots of different valuable resources if we didn't already answer the questions you have here in this video. And also, if you want to support us, we have Patreon, which is a monthly support. So thanks to our Patreons. If you want to be one, just follow the links in the video description below. We also have PayPal for one-time donations if you just don't want to be part of those groups. And by the way, the fee structure is pretty, it's like 18% roughly on average at Patreon. If you guys are curious, I know if you're like me, you want to know the details, obviously. And PayPal, friends and family, we don't get charged anything, which is nice. So it just comes straight to us. But if you're overseas, there might be some exchange rate fees. So if you do it as like some sort of a monetary exchange, like you're buying something, don't do that. They just keep a lot of fees, and it's a lot, guys. It can be like 30% sometimes. And then we have YouTube Super Thanks, which we always appreciate, but just so you guys know how this works, they keep 30% of that. And then YouTube members, they keep 30% of that too, right? It's 30, right?
Not quite.
No, it's 30.
Is it?
It's even. Exactly 30.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we still always appreciate you. You don't need to know that to support us, but we just want you guys to be aware of it, just so you guys can understand. If you're anything like me, you want to know the details. because you want to make the best judgment you can, given the budget, given the timeline, given your level of interest, given your level of risk, that sort of thing. And with a boat like this, it's kind of a no-brainer, okay? So we don't mean to insult your intelligence, but if you're brand new to the channel and you're looking at buying, you know, a $700 plane or a helicopter that's $600-700 or an airplane or a multi-billion-dollar airplane, I'm just kidding. You're probably not gonna buy the real one. We just wanna help you guys make good decisions, and we wanna be an advocate for the consumer and not necessarily just for these companies that make these things. But let's be honest, guys. In the world of 2024, or if you're watching this in 2025 or whenever it is you watch it, there are a lot of ways to make there's a lot of ways to make money, okay? And one of the hardest is to make foam things that fly through the air in a regulated, litigious society, okay? So let's reward the companies that do the things we really wanna do, even if that means occasionally buying a boat instead of an airplane. Because the truth is, I love aviation. It's really the driving force behind the pond, okay? And if you didn't already know that, it's because we're building an aerodrome here on our property, and the aerodrome needed a damn runway. So we built it. In fact, when we first moved to this property, you guys may not know this, we've been here about 5 years now. And we did our channel about 5 years prior to that, maybe a little bit longer. The balance was just before, we're not quite halfway here. But when we started, we built a small bridge. And actually, you can watch a video about that bridge if you wanted to learn. It's very long and very tedious, but it's very cool to see it come together. And it's just built out of logs and wood and stuff like that. But we needed to cross a waterway. Well, that waterway, it was an ephemeral stream we found out later through a 48-page hydrology report. We ended up building this pond. Well, originally when we first moved in, we thought, well, we're gonna have a dam to cross the waterway. Well, we didn't realize just how much was gonna be invested in that pond. And it was like more than our, well, not quite, but pretty close to more than our first house. Yeah. So it was a big deal, okay? Now, if we would have bought that pond back when we bought our first house, it would have been considerably less than the first house, but things have changed a lot in almost 20 years of being married. So life flies at you fast, and we're gonna help you guys capture as much enjoyment and appreciation of this awesome hobby. And we want you guys to follow along and enjoy this journey that we're on here on Brian Phillips RC. And if you're here with us for the first time, welcome. They're not always this long. Sometimes they're a lot longer. So we hope we have carved out just enough value for you that you'll stick around and watch our videos. So thanks for being part of it here on Brian Phillips RC. We got more right around the corner, literally in that room. That's our office. That's where we sit and take care of the comments and all that stuff. And we're just really glad to have you here. So stay tuned. There's so much more right around the corner here on Brian Phillips RC. Thanks for watching. Come back for more.